So excited. Welcome to today's episode. We have Leigh Brown, and she is one of my favorite people. She tells it exactly like it is. She is so funny, and you guys are in for such a treat. So, Leigh, welcome today.
Well, I feel better now because Jason said he liked my glasses and I had to put them on to see what he said, because this is the worst part of middle age besides the hot flashes is needing to have a dozen of these pairs everywhere. And if you are medium age and you feel me on that, you should agree with me in the chat over there. But it's such an honor to see you guys this morning. I hope everybody had a wonderful long weekend, or in real estate, since we work when nobody else is, you had a fun weekend of work.
Well, start by telling us a little bit. Right now, I feel like everybody is in a little bit of a shock because their sales numbers are going down. Everyone is in panic mode. So I really want you to get as specific as possible and say, okay, what do I need to do? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 of how to ignite some business right away into someone's life right now. What would you say?
Well, the first thing is it's okay to admit and acknowledge that your year's not looking like you want it to look. We're so used to putting on a fake front in real estate that if you are so busy trying to pretend everything is perfect when it's not, it makes it so hard to push through. So that's the first thing, is just be honest with yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that because there's no inventory. And if your market's like mine, the inventory that shows up, you look at it and you're like, because we're getting a lot of houses right now, because the great houses, people say, you know what, I'm just going to sit tight because I can't replace my awesome house with the houses that are out there. Rates are up. People are looking at the news and they throw up in their mouth a little bit and they feel panicked, and then you feel panicked because they feel panicked. And so if you acknowledge it, it's not where you want it to be, now you can attack it. So I will tell you, every day, the hardest thing to do when things aren't right is to get up and treat yourself like a business. It's also generally the hardest thing for anybody in real estate to do anyway, is to run a P&L. And if your P isn't looking good, cut your expenses. I mean, let's just be really honest right now. The market's probably going to get trickier before it gets better. And the first thing you should do is cut expenses. That means get that little credit card out of your pocketbook and cut it up. You got scissors on your desk? I keep scissors on my desk. I cut that card up every 3 months because it forces the emails that come through that say the charge was declined. And then I can ask myself, do I need to spend that $99 a month or that $149 a month or whatever crap I signed up for that I've forgotten about? It's going to force that conversation so that I can tighten up the ship on that side. And instead of thinking, you know what, I'll just go sell one more house and that'll pay all these bills. Stop that. That is really dangerous thinking. Go in and cut all your expenses. And by the way, doesn't hurt your credit score. The credit card company's going to mail you a new card right away. Hey, what's up? And then you have to look at the number, which forces you to think. So I want you to get really tight on your numbers when sales aren't where you want it to be. And so part of that treating yourself like a business is also getting up and putting on your face and putting on your hair and your professional dress and going into the office. And if you don't work in a brick and mortar office space, then go to Starbucks and sit at a table and look like you know what you're doing. The back of my phone says, ask me about real estate. And so because that's my pop socket, it forces me to not look like a deadbeat when I go out in public, because if I pick my phone up, because of course I'll have my phone out. If I told somebody to ask me about real estate and I've got on a sad little t-shirt and some gardening pants, I don't know what they're going to ask me, but if I look like I know what I'm doing, I'm going to get a different set of questions. And you might disagree with me on that, but you should know that I'm right, because the more you treat yourself like a CEO, the more other people will treat you that way. And then you get better questions. And when you get better questions, you get more opportunities. And by the way, once you put yourself into I look like I know what I'm doing mode, it's then actually much easier to do what you should be doing. And so here's your action step. Go to the contacts in your phone and start calling these people. I don't know why we all think there's got to be some magic lead source out there. My agents right now come to me and they want to buy a list. I'm like, what list are y'all buying? They're going to buy a list of people going through divorce, estate sales, tax delinquencies. They want to go find somebody that needs to sell. I said, what you going to do when you buy that list? You going to call them? Well, they want to text them. All right. So the person who's in delinquency is not going to respond to your text because they're already in a financial panic and they're hiding from the world. Why aren't you calling these people who actually already know you? And then if they know a friend who's in trouble, they can connect you to the friend, and then you'll have somebody you can talk to. But I swear it drives me crazy how many of y'all, and I'm just going to go ahead and say some of y'all in this call right here, you have people in this phone you haven't talked to. You haven't called them, and you know you haven't, and you can give me all the excuses you want. And some of y'all that are younger than I am might give me the millennial excuse of, my people don't talk on the, yes, they do too. They don't want to, but they will. And so what happens if you call them and they send you to voicemail, you send a text and say, quit screening me and call me back. And they'll call you back and say, what did you need? And you say, nothing. I just wanted to say, hey, what you doing? And once you've started a conversation, your business starts to change. I can look at my desk because I live in a paper world. It's how we should all live. And so these are all my lead files. My yellows are my listing leads and my blues are my buyer leads. And I can sit here and go through and say, oh, actually, I do need to call him today because he's on today's list. And I need to check and see if they ever listed, because these people have been in perpetual, we're not ready yet mode. And so if I pull up somebody that's been, I'm not ready yet mode, and I don't call them, do you know the chances of them listing with me? They're pretty slim. And I find that with a lot of us, you go on a listing appointment one time and they tell you, we're not ready. We need a year. We don't like interest rates, blah, blah, blah. You know what we do with them? Drop them. You drop them cold and you put them in your email list or your newsletter list and let some bot drip on them instead of you calling them saying, hey, what's up? What'd y'all do for Memorial Day? Because here it was 60 degrees and cloudy, so it sucked. So you couldn't go outside. I mean, you could, but it wasn't like you were sitting by the pool with a cocktail. It was just kind of bleh. So today's been a great day for making phone calls. And everybody I've called this morning, I'm like, did you find some sunshine this weekend? Because I didn't have any. Like, no, we went to the beach and it was awful. Well, now you have commiseration, and commiseration is a conversation, and a conversation is how you get business. And you know this as well as I do. There's nothing secret about any of this. None of this is earth shattering, but you all know it's true. And for whatever reason in real estate, we just hate to do the things that we know we need to do because prospecting is hard, and it's only hard because you don't want to do it.
Well, I want you to show, I'd love for you to show, and if you're listening to this, I'd love for you to watch it on YouTube as well, but I'd love for you to show those sheets of paper, because I think it is good to be tech savvy and have a lot of things in tech, but I do think there's a time to put things on paper. It kind of solidifies things. So describe in detail what you're doing to keep yourself organized.
Well, as a medium-aged person, I can't do everything on technology because it's you know what happens when you get that little reminder up, you just kind of flick it to the side. And we all do that because you were in the middle of something that you deemed to be more interesting. But I can't get away from paper. So all of my buyer intake sheets are on blue, and they're blue so I can find them on my desk. And for the record, for those of y'all that are looking for a great organizational tool, I buy these little clear pockets. It's 2 sides plastic. I buy them from Staples for nothing. And that way, when my sheet's inside here, I can see it. And I know there's a lot of agents that still use manila folders. So first of all, I don't like the texture because I'm a weird texture person. I like smooth things, but you can't see what's in it. And that way too, if you have the manila ones, you have to write on the edge who it is. And that's just not helpful to me. I need to look at the sheet and I can see the date when I last talked to them. I can see their name. I can see the skinny. So I know what I need to do with them next. And then I can just start going through my pile. So that's my buyer sheets. And then, by the way, when I give this to my team, everything's already in here. So I've got, this one's got a referral sheet involved because it's a referral from another agent. I've got the property they're looking at because we were thinking about writing an offer. So everything's already here and I can hand it to my team. She'll then scan it in and put it in the share file because she keeps everything digital, but digital doesn't work for me. And that's actually one of the big secrets to real estate life, is learning when digital is your friend and is not your friend. And with prospecting, digital is not your friend. And then the yellow ones, these are my listing intake sheets. If you wondered how I knew this was a buyer and this was a seller, it's the color. And so now I know which sellers to follow up with. And then here, I've got their information sheet. I've got the tax card. I got the old MLS sheet, and everything's already ready to go. So I can have an intelligent conversation at the drop of a hat, which is half of our problem, especially if you have a listing prospect right now and you all have one that you first talked to in 19 and they weren't ready to sell. And then in 20, they were worried that the COVID was going to come in their house. And then in 21, they couldn't find anything to buy. In 22, they couldn't find anything to buy. In 23, they don't like interest rates. And you've had the same sellers now for 5 years you've been talking to. And so you've talked to them a lot. You've forgotten the house because the first time you went was in 19 and you hadn't been back since. And we all know what it's like to talk to somebody, they're finally ready. And you're like, is that house brick? Did it have a garage? And so we have this weird moment of, I don't remember the house at all. And so you sneak out at night and go driving by it, trying to jog your memory to remember what the house looked like. And you know you've done this. Instead, what if, and hear me out here, you write the notes on this. And so then when you call them, you're like, hey, girl, hey. So did you get your garden in this year? Because now I remember that these people are super gardeny people. They won't move right now. The only time they will move is before the gardening season starts. And I have been talking to them since 2020. So we're in year 3 of them thinking about selling their house because they're downsizing. And they will eventually sell, and it will be with me because I have talked to them 40 to 11 times, and I'm not going to stop checking in on them. But when you're checking in on them, you also can't be all, oh, you know, the market's moving. Are you moving? And we don't have any inventory. And it's, you can't be gross. If you have something written down here that says, oh yeah, your daughter was getting married, how'd that go? And the things that we know organically from real estate, our best strength comes from relationship. That's the power of paper. It's right in front of me. I don't have to go through and hunt for their social media, because actually these people aren't on social media. That's also written on my intake sheet. So I don't have to go hunt for them on Facebook. That's a waste of time. And plus, it can be more personal if it came from the notes I took at their house versus the notes that I see from Facebook, which anybody can see. Y'all, Tiffany, I'll give you the download. That's no problem. And it's not a sample. I'll give you the DOC. You can take it. And if y'all are like every other real estate group I've ever chatted with, 2 of you will download it, and then 1 of you will use it, and the rest of you will act like you already had everything figured out. And frankly, I never have everything figured out. But I love the excuses we make in this. Like I wrote on this one, the last time I talked to them was in January, and what their numbers had updated to. So I'm keeping a constant running record of what I told them for price on the house, which I find to be a wonderful follow-up tool with listings, by the way. If you talked to them in 2020 and it was worth $375, and in 21 it had gone up to 4 1/4, and in 22 it was at 5. If you are able to talk to them and say, you remember the first time we talked and your house was looking like 375? Oh, high five, friend. Do you realize how much your credibility goes up? I think we leave so much on the table when it comes to trust and credibility just by not giving ourselves a record of our conversations. And again, you might keep it in your CRM, but I love y'all. I know you. You're not pulling up your CRM before you call somebody. You kept all the notes in there, and that's just where they live. But you remembered to call them while you were at the stoplight across from the elementary school. And then you remembered that their kid was in elementary school with your kid because it's all this 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And then you go ahead and call them because you're like, if I wait, I'll forget. And you call them, you're like, hey, what's up? But you don't have your notes available. And so you're kind of making it up. You don't have to make it up if you keep all your lead sheets available. By the way, mine all live.
I want to show you mine.
Your
I just do it by hand and things I need to do. And it's so funny because I have so much different colored paper and I'm just obsessed with it. And my staff, one day I was running low, and it was so funny because I overheard them. They're like, oh my gosh, she's running really low on colored paper. I'm not going to put an order in. I'm going to Staples. I'll be back. And they just know because I'm obsessed with colored paper, because it really does kind of mentally keep you organized. And I'm really into tech. I'm all about tech, but I think 90% being tech and then taking that 10% and putting it on colored paper is the magic sauce.
I
So
love that. But you know, the cost is so minimal too, right? I mean, you think
yes,
about what we spend on colored paper, it's a little more than white paper. Okay, so, and then if you're the person who loves technology, that's great. You could scan this in. And then I will say one of the things I learned to do a long time ago is I have in my share file, because I got rid of Dropbox because the expense was too high. We went to share file. I keep a buyer intake sheet folder and a seller intake sheet folder. So after I fill all these out, all the intake sheets live in one place. So then if I happen to be away from my pile, because my pile actually travels with me and it goes into my bag. I don't know if you're as bad as that or not, if you leave yours behind, but my pile goes with me because My A's and my B's. I don't carry the C's around. They're not worth it. No offense, C's, but the A's and B's go with me in case they reach back out. But then if I ever need to find my C's, they're all in that one folder file. I can go find everything at one time. And that's, I mean, organization is one of the most profitable things you can do for your real estate business. And if sales are off, then you want to be more profitable. And so why wouldn't we be as profitable as possible? Plus, I don't like the feeling of looking up a listing and having gone to somebody else. I hate that feeling. And so I don't want to have it as much as possible.
Mm. I love that idea of what you said of every 3 or 4 months, cutting up that credit card and figuring out all these different charges that you're like, I don't need this. I don't need this. I'm such a fan of that. And one of the things that you did is you wrote a couple of best-selling books, but one that's amazing is 7 Deadly Sins of Sales. And so I want you to give us a glimpse, and you guys all need to go buy that book, but give us like 2 or 3 things that you put in there to get us wanting to buy that book, that you're like, these are the things that really are the biggest ones that people do.
So when the markets are wonky, which is about the best way I can put it, because it feels like one listing is hot, multiple offers, and next door is the same house and it gets all the showings and no offers because the market feels hot one day and cold the next. It's the weirdest market I've experienced in my 23 years because it changes every 5 minutes. And so when you're thinking about how competitive it is, new people coming in every day, why should anybody use you? And it's the question realtors don't like to ask themselves and don't want to be honest about, because if we're really honest about it, you start realizing what you offer is very similar to what somebody else offers. Well, sure, you have MLS. Does the consumer know what the MLS is? And I find that most agents cannot explain the MLS. They say, I put your house in it and it goes to websites. Okay, so syndication is only an after effect of the MLS. It's actually a beautiful free and fair marketplace that promotes fair housing, and it reduces discrimination in the marketplace. And it's where we cooperate with our fellow brokers. And so sometimes just explaining what we do changes the game versus your competitors who just said, well, I'm gonna stick it in the MLS and the MLS sends it to websites. And you sat here explaining how you're going to advertise their listing to every paying member through that marketplace. And then in addition to explaining the tools that we have, why should somebody use you? And if I ask y'all that in a listing appointment, if I'm your seller and I say, why should I use you? Are you going to give me something that differentiates you in the marketplace? Or are you just going to tell me that you have photos and drone and you're going to do Matterport and you got a stager and you got yard signs and you've got the paperwork? I mean, what are you going to give me that's different? And that's the hardest thing for any realtor to do. And that's the number one sin in the book, is figuring out how to put substance over ego, because often we walk into the space like, well, you hire me because I'm number one. I'm amazing. Basically, I've sold everything. I know the builders. I know things. And you walk in there talking about yourself, but the public is allergic to that right now. The public does not give 2 rips about who you are. They care about how they feel, and they care about what you're going to bring to them. And so you got to get that message together, because the markets will continue to get more competitive, because while we have no inventory in so many cases, you have increasing inventory. You have new competitors that have different pricing structures. They have different features and values. And now you've got to really find a way to get your message together. And the public values you. That's the thing. If I asked any of y'all for a list of 5 past clients and I called them and I said, hey, tell me about Tiffany, tell me about Tanya, why did you use Chris? They can articulate your value better than you can. And that's a problem in real estate on the whole. And so I would say that your homework assignment is to call the people that you would give to me. If I asked you for 3 references, all of y'all would give me 3 references. If I called them and said, define your realtor for me, they could do it. You need to do that right now, because then if you get that value message together, that should be the centerpiece of your marketing, because when markets are more competitive, the public is actually more discerning. They need an agent who gets them and who gets the market and figures out how to deliver what they want. And you have a lot of competitors that just can't. And maybe you can trade on your relationships in your name, but when the markets are weird, the public wants experience and they want somebody who can articulate it.
So if you were at a listing appointment and you were telling them what differentiates you, tell us what you would say to them.
Oh, so you're going to want to hire me, Chantel, because I get my jollies out of navigating the minefield of real estate. And somewhere along the way, we're going to encounter some problems, and you might get blown up in the minefield and I might get blown up, but pieces of us are going to get across the finish line together. And when I say that, the seller across the kitchen table says, well, what do you mean I might get blown up? That's where they go immediately. They don't listen to the kumbaya at the end. We're going to get across the finish line. That's where realtors go because we're kumbaya people. The seller says, what do you mean I might get blown up? And I say, look, it might not appraise. We might have a buyer who's got an ex-wife and she didn't want to sign the free trader agreement. And we might have to deal with fungal growth in the crawl space, and we might have the flood zones moved because now we have flood zones 2.0, and that might affect the rates on this house. And we might have this and we might have that. And I start listing off some of the scenarios I've seen that all of y'all have seen too. Do you know that sellers never heard any of that? Because when we're all doing marketing, we all talk about, I'm going to get you the most money in the shortest amount of time with the fewest hassles. And then you show sold in 5 minutes, 47 offers. And you don't tell anybody about all the shitstorm that you had to get through to get your sellers there. And you've all been through something in the last month that you're like, yeah, I can't believe this mess. I just had one that closed. We had a fight over an encroachment. You know how much the encroachment was? It was 6 inches. And the buyer dug in her heels and all 10 toes. And she said, I ain't closing, because she came from California, where an encroachment issue is huge. North Carolina, we're like, we're good. Meets and bounds. We're pretty chill. But we had this fight over that. And that's what I had to solve. And so until the consumer understands that that's your primary job, that you're there to solve a problem and you're good at it, and you've got a list of people, and you know how I solved it? I had an attorney ready to write the agreement up, and I was ready to go knock on the neighbor's door because luckily I knew them from the ball field too. So I can go use my relationships to be like, look, this fence has been here for 3 homeowners and y'all hadn't fussed yet. Would you please sign this to settle her down? And that's how we solve it. And that's how I win listings. It's also how I win buyers. And if you are good at that, if any of y'all, that's your best thing that you do is solving the problems, you better be good at telling people that. And I will tell you, the last 3 years, what's the main problem you've solved for your buyers? How to win in multiple offers, right? What's the main problem you've solved for your sellers? How to select the best offer out of the multiple offers. If I look back at all y'all's marketing, how much of it talks about solving that problem for people? You've talked about it with buyers. A lot of y'all said, I help my buyers win in multiple offers. How many of y'all talked about, I help my sellers figure out what to do in multiple offers? I haven't seen hardly any agents advertise on that. And that's the main reason a seller didn't go FSBO in the last 3 years. Because if they were FSBO, within 5 minutes, they got 3 offers and they're on the phone with the realtor saying, I don't know what to do with these offers. Can I pay you to help me figure it out?
Well, I have a question from one of our listeners, and it says, I'm getting a ton of buyers, but I really want to focus on listings. I don't want to work as many buyers. What can I do in this market, very specifically on social media and other new tactics to get listings?
So I appreciate that thought process, because I quit working buyers in 2003 for the most part, because I'm not really wired with a lot of patience. And maybe that's why you chose to work with more sellers instead of buyers. However, dollars all spend. So I would tell you to be cautious about saying you only work with one or the other. What we're seeing right now is that there are many agents who for years have been buyer agent only, and all they've worked with are buyers. They wish they had a more balanced business plate, and they're trying to make a switch, but they are afraid to make a complete switch because you don't want to turn off your revenue stream, right? And so I want you to be thoughtful about how you position this, is my first point to make to you. The second one is this: what are you putting into your marketing? Because if you're talking about showing houses, and you're talking about negotiating with buyers, and you're talking about how the multiple offer process works and how interest rates work, if you're talking to buyers, buyers will call you. And if you want to talk to sellers, you need to talk to sellers. And I don't know who you are, and I haven't seen your social media, but I would totally judge it if I saw it, because I bet you $5 without even knowing who you are looking at it, that you are not talking to sellers in your social media. If you want to talk to sellers, ask yourself, what would a seller ask me right now? And I can tell you what sellers ask right now. You know the question they're asking? It's not how's the market. Nobody ever asks that. We just train on that all the time, like people actually say it. Nobody comes up to you in the Harris Teeter and says, how's the market? They come up to you in the Harris Teeter like this. Is it too late to sell? And they ask it kind of secret and behind their hand because they don't know what's happening in the market. But if they went to the news told them that real estate's a mess and houses aren't selling and record low level of pendings and the world's ending. Well, from what I've determined and looking at the numbers, the two markets that are having a hard time would be the San Francisco Bay Area and Manhattan. That's where there's not enough buyers and there are more sellers than buyers. Most of the rest of y'all are in markets that are either balanced or favor sellers. So what question does a seller have? Is it too late to sell? So why not make a social post that says, hey, I'm just going to pick Douglas Converse, and we'll pick you out of the comment thread because you got a first and last name. So Douglas Converse. And if you don't have Converse sneakers in your marketing, you're crazy. And so I'm Douglas Converse. And I had somebody ask me at the grocery store if it's too late to sell, but let me just answer it for everybody. It's not too late to sell. The question is, should you sell? Well, that's up to you. And I'll tell you the pros and cons. So give me a call. That's how your video could go. You're talking 10 to 15 seconds. Very calm, very cool, very relatable, very call to action. However, most of you, and I say this with love, if I put you in front of a camera, you panic because you tell yourself you're too old and fat and ugly and stupid and don't know what to say and all your little sad excuses. And then you pretend like you're at the Olin Mills photo shoot. You fold your hands, put the fake bookcase behind you, and you say, the average list price in our market is $389, and the average sale price is $389.9, and days on market is 7, and blah, 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 and you go through all these little sad stats, and you don't even tell anybody that you hear what they're asking. That's what the people out there want to know from you is, will you hear me if I ask you a question? So why not just answer what you're being asked? The other question sellers will ask you right now is, where am I going to go? So what if you want to work more sellers? Think about the buyer population you already have. And maybe you just need to massage that message a little bit and say, I love helping people find somewhere to go. And part of that for a lot of folks is figuring out how to sell where they're starting. I specialize in the logistics of helping you sell and buy with as few hiccups as I can possibly figure out how to stop. And now think about this, y'all. Most of us, when we talk about real estate, we don't talk about how painful the logistics are. That's the main reason sellers are panicked about having to buy. I only want to move once. And you've had that conversation where you watched them physically tense up. So answer to that and tell your buyers, I'll help you with the listing and with the buy side. Because if you want to transition, the best thing you can ever do is start thinking about both sides of the transaction. I can help you with both. And as you build up more listing inventory, then you need to have a partnership with another agent who loves buyers, is wired to deal with them, is kind and is patient. And then you can say to that person, I have discovered that there is somebody better than me when it comes to working with buyers. Her name is Tanya, since she's the last comment over here. Tanya's amazing. You know what? When you're ready to pull the trigger on this, I'm going to be the one to here and walk you through selling, and Tanya's going to walk you through buying. We're going to be hand in glove. You get 2 for the price of 1, which is really, they're just going to get both of you. You're both going to get your commissions, but you'll be living in the space you're wired for. But that's what we can be doing is, how do we care for the consumer? So take it away from, I don't want to work buyers, I only want to work sellers, and turn it into, how do I take better care of my neighbors when they have real estate needs? And then you're going to solve for both of those things at the same time.
All right, I have another question. I've been in real estate for a few years. I have about 50 past clients, but I can call them in a few days. I feel like I'm running out of things to say for a call to action. Yes, I can ask about their family and how they're doing, but I need a few scripts of what to say to have a call to action at the end of having them to refer business to me.
Okay, so first of all, never say the words refer business to me, because that sounds icky and gross, and it sounds like you're looking for dollars, which you are, but saying it out loud is tacky. There's a reason that in the South, we were raised never to talk about money because it's very tasteless. So change that script into, you want them to recommend you to someone. Take refer out, replace it with recommend. And now you're actually speaking the social language of today's world. If you were to start typing in, I need a dentist on Facebook, Facebook pops up that recommendation response. And so if it's going to be how people are wired, lean into that. So I want you to ask yourself this question. How do you ask people to recommend you? Are you really mushy about it? And you're like, if you ever hear somebody say real estate and you liked me, I did a good job, if you think about it and maybe just give them my name and I'd appreciate it. If you're really mushy, that's why you're not getting any names. You need to be direct because people love metrics. In fact, if we know anything, I throw a stat at you and you'll grab a hold of it, whether I'm right or wrong, because numbers give confidence and people love knowing what kind of parameters they have to meet. In fact, let me ask y'all a question. What was an A when you were in high school? What was the numbers that was attached to the A? Do you remember? You're the same age as I am, Chantal. What was an A in your era?
Mine was 94 to 100.
Yeah, mine was 93 to 100. You know what it is now?
Is it 90 to 100?
It's 90 to 100. So y'all know what I tell my kids? If they bring home a 90, I'm like, that's a B. Don't you be bringing home a B to me. You are capable of an A, because they know metrics and they know what they're trying to hit. Then in real estate, we get all mushy when in reality, our business is built on metrics. So here's what I want you to do when you call your people. So you called, let's see, who's a name over here in the Wayne? We got Wayne Lewis. I'm going to call Wayne Lewis. Hey, Wayne, it's Leigh Brown at One Community. What you doing? I don't start with the whole, how are you? How's things? I don't do the whole Ford thing because it doesn't ring true to me. And I will just say that whatever you're saying on the phone should be you and not be tacky and gross. And so I say, what you doing? And Wayne will say, over here doing some work. What you doing? And I'll say, look, I'm trying to get my business cranking and I got a question for you. And what's Wayne gonna say? What you got? I say, listen, will you send me 2 people in the next 12 months? I just need you to go hunt down 2 people for me in the next 12 months. Hey, Wayne, will you do that? You know what Wayne's gonna say? Of course I will. What did I tell him? I needed 2 names and in what time frame? In 12 months. That's what you have to teach yourself to say. I'm looking for 2 names in 12 months. I'm not looking for buyers or sellers. I'm looking for names. Why? It's my job as a professional to convert. It's their job to introduce me to somebody. And I give them a time frame so they can be thinking, oh, I don't know anybody right now, but I keep my ear to the ground. In reality, the average American adult can only retain a marketing message for 16 days. So the chances of them remembering 12 months from now are slim to none. But what happens is when you ask Wayne for 2 names in the next 12 months, he's going to come up with 2 names in the next week, because now he's actively thinking, I just talked to Leigh and she needs 2 names in the next 12 months, but he's listening for what? Real estate. And he's going to hear real estate because he's listening for it. It's the same thing as when you're pregnant, all you see are pregnant women everywhere. When you're shopping for a Ford Explorer, you see a Ford Explorer everywhere. You told Wayne you needed 2 names for real estate. Wayne's hunting for 2 names. That's how you change that conversation. The other thing I'm going to challenge you on, whoever said that, I'm going to say this like a mama hen. You have not called them as frequently as you think you have. I know it, because you think you called them. In your head, you talked to them last week. You didn't. And I say this with love, because look at the last 3 years of the COVID era. Does the COVID era to all of y'all feel like a big time mush? Like usually, it was during COVID. Was it during the mask time or the vax time or the we didn't know time? And you kind of realize the last 3 years have completely mushed in. That's why on all my little sheets, I'm keeping the dates of when I talk to people, because in my head, I think I just talked to them, but in reality, it was 6 months ago. The other thing you should know is that because the average adult retains a marketing message for how long? 16 days. If you're calling once a month, you're actually going to be refreshing their mind to you. So what would you call them about? So you're thinking, I already asked them for 2 names in 12 months. They all spit out some names and now I'm busy. Woo, this is great. All right. So I'm in Concord, North Carolina. The Salisbury is the next town north, and it had the Cheerwine Festival last week. So a week and a half ago, what did I call all my people with? Hey, did y'all know the Cheerwine Festival's on Saturday? Y'all going out there? And I'm saying, hey, did you remember this is going on? And what will I call about in June? I'm going to say, hey, graduation just happened. If you need me to send a reminder to some junior that needs to get their grades up, you tell me, I'll lean in and be the mama hen. Do you know what kind of a great response that gets? It's huge. And I love I'm Coach Leigh in my town because I've coached all these kids in softball. I actually get to go to the state championships because 2 of the girls I coached when they were 7 or seniors now, they're going D1. So Coach Lee's going to go watch them. So build that reputation in. It does not, your phone call doesn't have to be about real estate to get business from it. That's the number one thing I will tell you. And if you're saying things like, oh, who do you know that needs to buy or sell? They're going to screen you. And then that's gross. And you should send a meme back. I send a lot of memes out to my people. I know where they are. And I send things that I think are funny, generally around the fact that I have chickens, because chickens are nonpartisan and I can always get away with a chicken joke. So keep some memes saved in your phone and send it back out, because you can have a personality and survive in real estate, which was actually the point of my first book, Outrageous Authenticity. Too many of us are so busy trying to be all things to all people that you've completely lost sight of who you are and the fact that you're actually pretty interesting and entertaining. And now we're heading into the season when there's so much to talk about, whether it's where can I buy a good watermelon? Do you know a good pick your own strawberry patch? You know, anybody that's got good fruits and vegetables, where can I get good Chinese food? I'm hungering for it. Think about all the things you can ask people. I mean, we all get in a restaurant rut. That's a really easy script too. Our favorite pizza place, we love them, but they're closed on Sundays. Where do y'all go for pizza? You got somewhere good? My husband's from New York. He's very picky. What do you know about? And then I've told them, what about myself? I gave them a little piece of personal information so they feel like we're family now. And I told them I need something from them, so they deliver to me, which puts them in the habit of delivering to me as opposed to me always delivering to them. Just flip the script. You're retraining people to think about you as a holistic human. It's a long answer to your question.
Well, we have two more questions. We're out of time, but we'll just try to get both of them in real quick. One question says, I love what you said about saving money. Can you specifically say some things that you did save on recently? And what are the best and low cost events that you've put together to keep in touch with past clients? But what is the easiest and most cost-effective way to do it and reach out?
Okay, well, the easiest and cost effective is to use the phone that you have to make outbound phone calls. And so I'll just say that one more time. The second easiest thing to do with this phone is a video camera on it. And that is low cost marketing. In fact, go watch all my social channels. You see something, you're like, man, I say that too. Okay, fine. Pick up your phone and make your version. I give you full permission to copy what I'm doing in your voice with your words for your marketplace. You don't have to recreate the wheel. And video does not cost you anything except maybe a little bit of pride, and maybe it costs you a little bit of time. Okay, so just suck it up. All right. I know all your excuses. Just get over yourself. Now, talk about client events. I just had my big one 2 weeks ago. We do a shred day. I started doing that about 20 years ago, and I learned about it from Orly Steinberg up in New Jersey. I love Orly. And the shred truck cost me $400 an hour. We get it from 9 to 11 on a Saturday morning. So my total cost is $800. Y'all, that is less than you're spending on ads to be a premier agent for a certain website that rhymes with willow trees. I'm just going to point that out. And my lender paid half, because with Till Respa, my lender can pay half. And he came out there and we put all the boxes and we shred stuff in. And we told doctors' offices, churches, town hall lets us use their parking lot because we let the town shred for free. And the way the shred things work, it's so easy because they charge by time and not tonnage. And you just tell everybody, there's your script. Hey, I'm having shred day in 2 weeks. Go gather up all your Medicare Plan B and identity theft and fake credit cards that came in the mail and bring all that stuff over here. People love it. It is great PR. It is a great chance to be visible in the community. For those of y'all that are on a budget too, 3 of you could share the truck, just get a clipboard to do sign-ins. And then if you have a big line, it just makes it look like you're that much more popular. So totally you can copy that. And if you need information on that, I put my link in the chat for leibrown.com/resources. That's where these intake sheets live. It's also where there's some information on copying shred day. Easy, low cost marketing. As far as reducing your cost, the happiest day ever, I had been buying a zip code from that company that rhymes with a willow tree, so my listings could get premier access. And then that contract finally ended, and I've never been happier because I tried to get out of it and I couldn't. So just be careful when you sign contracts. You can always get out with 30 days notice, but just go start canceling, y'all. I mean, it's kind of amazing. If you tell them you don't have any money, they will leave you alone, and they're not going to come after your credit because you did not sign any personal guarantees on any of the marketing crap that you do. You're just out there spending money on what's basically vanity. So get back to basics, and basics would be showing up at the PTA meetings and the ball games and the grocery store and the gas station. Get out of your car and go inside. If you are Instacarting, you are killing yourself. Stop Instacarting and look at me pointing at you. Go to the grocery store and meander around as long as you can, saying hey to people. Stop in the produce section and the lady's fixing to buy a quart of blueberries, but the pints are on sale. Say, hey girl, the pints are on sale. Save somebody $1. And if you're wearing your realtor pin, I wear my major investor pin for RPAC. They're going to say, what's that pin? I say, oh, I'm a realtor. I've been working for you. You didn't even know me. I can save you money on your house. Like I saved you $1 on blueberries. Just be fun and relaxed and relatable. And what it costs you is time and it costs you energy. And I get it. We all want to say we're out of time. Then put these stupid things down and quit scrolling through social media all the time. If y'all would put a limit on the time you scroll through social media, you'd find there's a whole lot of time to do some business.
All right. This next question is, one of my friends that I've taken out to eat about every other month listed his house with one of his childhood friends. I never mentioned anything about real estate at our dinners. Do you think that's what I did wrong? It's really bothering me. And now I don't want to pour into a lot of my past clients because of it.
Okay. So this was a friend or a past client or both?
It just says friend.
So if it's a friend, you might be grateful that they use somebody else, because there is a line that sometimes should not be crossed between friends and business, because you can ruin a business relationship dealing with friends. So first of all, be grateful that this person valued your friendship. That should matter to you. Now, the next thing you want to think about introducing in is, how would they have known you're in real estate? Do you wear a realtor R pin? I don't wear my big name tag because I find that to be gross. But I wear this all the time because this is very subtle, except it's pretty flashy. But if I'm wearing this at dinner with a friend, it's not like I'm saying, hi, I'm Leigh Brown, because that would act like I didn't know who they were. This is just part of my professional attire, but the R is always there. If you ever watch in my videos, if I'm ever wearing a jacket, it's hang on, my jacket's right here. It's got the realtor R on it. There's so much business to be had from just wearing some realtor garb here and there, and you can get that at store.realtor. When you think about it, the messaging should always be subtle. And you should always also remind people of this. I got somebody. If you need a realtor and you don't want it to be me, I got somebody. Always feed that in and tell people, yeah, okay, so Tanya, you don't necessarily want your friends to do business with you. And I will tell you this, after 23 years, the hairiest situations come from people that we're too close to, because we get afraid to tell them the truth and they're afraid to tell us the truth, and we don't want to know too much. So you always want to be the person that says, I got somebody, if you don't want to muddy the waters. Then you can at least capture a referral fee. But I can say this and it's not going to hit home. I'm just going to say it anyway. Don't take it so personally. You have to learn how to develop a professional shield that says, not everybody's going to pick me and that's okay. Not everybody is going to make me their realtor, and that's okay. I'll give you a great example. Okay. So one of my best friends, he and his husband moved to Atlanta because of a new job, and they listed their house with somebody else. And I have my realtor shield on, and it hurt to the core because Robert's one of my dearest friends on the planet. But it hurt because I didn't get it, and I was never going to get it because his husband's sister-in-law is in real estate. I was never going to trump the family member. Now, Robert can't stand his sister-in-law, all right? Because that happens sometimes, it's the outlaws and in-laws. So Robert sends me business when he has access to it, but I couldn't get his personal business. So that's why you have to learn how to separate out. And that friend who did not choose you, you wish them all the best. You make a preview appointment as fast as you can and go make sure you've looked at the house so you can do your best to be kind and thoughtful in the realtor community about it. And then when your friend talks to you about it, you say, hey, it's cool. I know that you didn't want our friendship to get involved in this, but if you know somebody that needs to sell, have them call me. Toss it in there that they can send you somebody else if they couldn't use you. I will never find an adequate way to explain this to early career realtors. It's always going to hurt. This is a weirdly emotional financial business, and it's going to hurt. And learning how to deal with that hurt is part of the maturation process of your real estate business. But it also means you realize that it's okay that they picked somebody else. That's the beauty of the competitive nature of our business. but it doesn't mean they can't send you somebody from work who needs to buy or sell. Just learn how to bleed it into the conversation.
So good. That was amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Tell listeners where they can find you and where they can follow you.
First
And
of all,
you guys make sure in the chat, you show her a lot of love. This was amazing. Go ahead and tell them where they can find you and where they can get your downloads.
well, I'm gonna high five Deborah. Worst deal ever was with my mother-in-law. I will never make that mistake again. Worst mistake of my life. But anyway, and I love her, but should never have been their realtor. And the names of the books, they're all on my LeighBrown.com, by the way. Outrageous Authenticity, 7 Deadly Sins of Sales, and then Peeling the Onion, which is actually about getting back to your relationship. So for those of y'all that feel you've gotten too mired in the social world, Peeling the Onion will help you break out of that. I'm at LeighBrown.com. That's my website. All my social handles are there. But you can come hang out with me on the Instagrams. That's my happy place. I go to Facebook only because I need to be there and I don't really like it. So if you message me there, it might take a day to get back to you. And I don't understand TikTok, even though I have an account there. So really, if you want to talk to me, you should go to Instagram because that's where I spend time. You can email me, you could call me. You can Leigh at LeighBrown.com. I mean, let's see, I'll put my cell phone here. If you call me, I'll screen you. I just full disclosure, I screen people, but you're always welcome to text me. And if you have referrals in Concord, North Carolina, I'd love to help you, or I have agents who can help you. It's good. And that's how life works. But the biggest thing I will tell you is that you need to thank your brokerage for setting this up today, because not every brokerage will bring somebody in to give you a fresh perspective. So you need to say thank you to Madam over here, Madam MRE, and you need to go out to another agent in your marketplace who is feeling blah about the business, but it's somebody you like and you value, and bring them in with you next time, because we have to have a lot of good realtors in every marketplace, especially when things are choppy, because the last thing the consumer needs at a confusing time is a less than ethical, less than competent, less than knowledgeable realtor. So bring somebody else into a good space so that we can make sure the consumer has lots of great choices. And then when your feelings are hurt by a friend or a family member who chooses somebody else, then show up at a sales meeting. I mean, honestly, y'all, Chantel will have sales meetings for you, whether they're Zoom or in person. And if you don't show up, you're not going to feel like you're going to keep feeling like an island if you don't show up. You got to show up. This business can be lonely. It can be mean. It can be cutthroat, and it does not have to be that way when you're in a company that's trying to support you. So allow the company to support you.
Oh, this has been great. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you next time.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Bye. Heather, tell